Now, one of the big things behind electrification of the fleet and trying to reduce our carbon emissions is that it's not necessarily going to be the vast fleet of personal cars and changing them over that's going to make the biggest and most dramatic difference. Particularly when it comes to city centres, a big part of improving their air quality and making those gains is in the commercial fleet. So trucks, vans, utility vehicles, those that are out there every day, doing miles, running constantly, rather than just running for that 20-minute commute to and from work every day. So while there haven't been that many options around so far, we've seen things like the LDV EV80, a few more vehicles are coming on stream. And what I'm driving today is one of them. This is the Ford Transit PHEV. It's a plug-in hybrid, so it's got a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine that does not connect to the wheels. It runs purely to generate electricity for the batteries and for the to drive the will provide power to drive the motor that powers the front wheels. So let's take it for a drive. Let's have a chat about it and see what we think. Now, this is not going to be a full review of the Transit. To be clear, I really like the Transit. I think it is probably the best van of this size in the market. And if you want to see a full review of the Transit, what I think about it, and check out things like the load space and so forth, then I'm going to put a link in the bottom here, which goes to a review from our sister website, Transport Talk. So go check that out. That's really detailed, and that shows what the actual Transit's all about if you are looking for a work vehicle. Now, in regards to this van, other than the PHEV element, it is pretty much exactly the same as Ford's standard short wheelbase Transit. The key difference, as I mentioned, is that engine under that motor under the front, and then those motors that electrically drive the front wheels. There's not a lot else different. There's a charge point up in the front left corner, a location I really like. It is Type 2, no DC charge, but it's in a really convenient location. So the power output of the motors that drive this, I think, is about 105 kilowatts and about 55-ish newton meters. Now, round town in the city where I am at the moment, that is great. This thing will just do a little bit of a spin of the wheels and shoot off and gets around town really well. And I've put a few people in some stuff in here, and it doesn't seem to be hit too much when you've got people on board. It has a load capacity up to 1 ton, which is really great. It matches pretty much every ute in the market and most of the vans out there, and means that this is a really usable vehicle. Now, the performance does take a hit up at the higher reaches. This does not feel as powerful as a diesel Transit when you get up into the upper reaches. Sticking around town where, let's face it, most vans spend their time, then it really is in its ideal environment. No complaints with its performance around town. If I hit the pedal now, you know, we get away at a fairly solid rate. So that's really important for a car like this. Range, of course, is also limiting this vehicle to the city. So on electric only, Ford claims about 50-ish kilometers. I think about 40-ish, 45, depending on how you drive it. You can set the vehicle in a number of modes, and I guess this comes back to what this vehicle is really set up for, which is electric vehicle only zones in the center of cities in Europe, I suspect. You can set it to run where the motor is generated, where the engine is generating power to run the motors, which means you can save EV range for that. You can set it to auto, and it'll basically just manage the power depending on what it's required. But predominantly will run on electric. You can set it to EV all the time. Now, based on that system where this van needs to save its power sometimes to go into an electric only zone, it is quite aggressive with how it charges the van off the engine if you do set it into that charging mode. And I reckon about half an hour of driving with the engine running will mostly fill a battery, which is good. So say you're out on the highway, you know you're going to be in the city, you know you're going to be in stop-start traffic, you want to get the best, maybe set it to that then and run electrically. Now, once you have run out of battery range, of course, you've got that additional range provided by the petrol motor, and that range is quite serious depending on how efficiently you're driving or how much charge you've got or how much load you've got on board. I've seen numbers beyond 400 kilometers on the still called a guessometer, a GOM, or on this vehicle. It will go quite a long distance, but that does come with a caveat. When you are driving along the highway and you have a fully empty battery, the vehicle does struggle to provide enough power to really haul the car along. So say for example you're on an overtaking lane or on a hill, you can go up a standard hill at a reasonable rate, but don't expect to accelerate in a way that you would with the diesel van. It'll get you there, but it is just that little more leisurely, but not so much that it's impossible. It's just you do certainly feel that restriction. We had the chance to give this van to a tradesman in the area where I live to try it out. He actually drives the Transit already, so I'm going to cut over to that discussion now and let him explain to you what he thought of driving this van. So Ryan, you've been in the car with the van. I sent it to you yesterday. You've had a bit of a run around it. What are your thoughts? I mean, how do you find it differs from your diesel Transit?
The pickup and the acceleration's good straight away. I also have a manual, so the heavy diesel manual is a bit of a struggle to get up and going. Yeah, steering was great too.
And as far as the electric propulsion, did you find issues with using it, and how did you find it actually felt to drive?
There's a bit of a learning curve with the low mode, I think it is, to charge the battery. Just taking your foot off, instead of using the brake to use that. But I did have passengers in the car, and if they weren't realising that I was going to take my foot off the accelerator, that kind of jerk forward motion was a little bit of a new one for them.
Right. So they're not used to that kind of whole regen setup.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. And in regards to like usability, I mean, if you're just running around town, so this thing, from what I've seen, you might get 30, 40, maybe 50k out of it around town, depending on how you drive. For day-to-day work around, we're in Mangawa here, is that enough?
Yeah, absolutely. If I had small jobs on, that would be quite fine. I can always charge it at night for the next day, but if I knew that I was just going to be pottering around town, it's quite fine.
But in regards to what you mentioned to me earlier, is that a lot of your jobs you do end up out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I might get a call on the way home, like to do something while I'm out nowhere near a gas station. So that extra 100 Ks sometimes that I don't think about with a full tank of diesel, something I need to consider with a vehicle like this.
But then of course you do have that extra petrol motor there, so you can go the 300 Ks.
Yeah.
Do you think clients would mind, say if you're house working for a few hours doing an install or something, would mind you plugging in?
I didn't actually think about that. I'm not too sure. How much does it actually use power wise?
Well, it's I think if you charge it top to bottom, you're probably most of the time only going to grab about 10 kilowatts, so about $2.50.
Sure. I guess it depends on the client. Some people would. Maybe the older clients might be a bit more tight with their money and think that I'm getting something for nothing. So, yeah, it'd be something to consider.
Now, payload-wise, this thing I think takes about a ton.
Sure.
Is that enough for you on your day-to-day working?
I haven't really tallied it up, but with the air conditioning, I think, yeah, if we were loaded up, 2 air conditioning units, maybe taking a trailer, I think it would struggle for what I do. Yeah.
So are we going to see you go electric anytime in the near future?
No, still a while to go. I was quite impressed with it, but just in my industry, it's kind of one more thing to worry about is, how much charge do we have? How much load can I take? Whereas the diesels just ticks all the boxes.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem.
So as you heard there, it's a transit driving tradie who doesn't think that the vehicle, despite the fact that he liked it, is quite ready for him to throw his tools and his roof rack onto and switch over from a diesel Transit. But not all hope is lost. I don't actually think that really is the ultimate market for this van. I think this van has a different role to play, and it's with service providers and particularly government bodies. People who are out servicing various items around the streets. They're doing lots of short trips around town. They're stopping and starting frequently. They are jumping in and out. Not likely going to go and do big ranges, but lots of short, hoppy work. So that is where this van is going to really excel, because they will go out all day on a route where they may leave the diesel running a lot and use a lot of waste a lot of diesel sitting in traffic, and they're going to have this vehicle that when they're not moving is not using pretty much any energy. So that's absolutely ideal, absolutely suited. The other aspect to that comes down to the price as well. So this van, as it stands today, is $89,990 for the cargo version. That is a lot of money, especially something that's only got a 14.4 kilowatt hour battery. But if you are a council, if you are a government department, if you are a corporate that wants to really put that impression of green out there, or you've been mandated that you've got to get your fleet onto an electrified platform, well, this is a very strong option. In fact, it's one of your only options out there at the moment, considering that LDV has pulled their EV80 market from the market temporarily. And it's a great vehicle for it. I really do like the combination that Ford has put together here. I'm more interested in the Tornado version of this vehicle. So the Tornado is the coach version of the Transit. So luxury, nice seats inside, seating generally for 8 or 9 depending on the specification, windows all through, sliding doors, air conditioning throughout, for an extra $10,000. And it seems to me like you're getting a heck of a lot for that extra $10,000. The cargo version at $89,990 feels steep to me. The plug-in hybrid Tornado version at $99,990 seems to me like for things like luxury hotels in town that have a shuttle bus, or premium taxi services that want something that stands out a little bit. If you're going to put it to work in that way, that sounds really appealing, and just sounds kind of cool to me to have a big vehicle with lots of seats for the family that has all that option there. Now the Transit, as I said before, it doesn't DC fast charge. It's only a single type 2 plug. It comes with a EVC, and of course you can use a level 2 charger. I think any commercial outfit that wants to run this really should be looking at that, because you've got an onboard charger about 7 kilowatts. So if you can plug into a level 2, you're looking at between 2 to 3 hours to charge this from nothing to full. But then even on the standard lead, you're still only looking at, you know, it's not even overnight to charge it to full. It's the joy of having a smaller battery, is that the charging need is not as strong as it is with a larger batteried vehicle. So quite usable to be able to charge up if you've got a level 2 solution at least once during the working day, if not twice. If you're coming in, going back to base, even you'll gain some valuable kilometers on a level 2 charger just over your lunch hour. You'll get enough to make it worthwhile. So that, I think, that kind of hardware is going to be really crucial. Even if you think you can get away with the lead, level 2 is something that's going to be really nice to have with this vehicle. So in summary, the Ford Transit Custom PHEV, I really like it. I think there's a few little things that could be a little better. Maybe perhaps some of the power management around that open road work. There hasn't been a huge amount of customization in the dashboard graphics, which mean you don't have a huge amount of information about what's going on with energy flows and that kind of thing. And maybe some DC fast charging would be nice. But overall, this thing works really well. And I just think it's going to be a great van for certain type of users. I think a lot of other users won't find it the right vehicle for them, but for certain type of users, it's going to be really ideal. I wish it was a little bit cheaper, but I guess this is what's happening. As new technology comes in, it's going to be priced a certain way at this stage, and hopefully it just becomes a little bit better priced in the future.